ходи, ходи, Орисю, на гору на лиску. Не ходи, ходи, Орисю, а грай на сопілиці. Ой, гой, деріці, деріці, ой, гой, деріці, деріці. Не ходи на лису гору, а грай на сопілиці. Ой, гой, деріці, деріці, ой, гой, деріці, деріці. Не ходи на лису гору, а грай на сопілиці. Бо на горі на листі туман над ярами, бо на горі на листі чорти з відьмаками. Ой, гой, деріці, деріці, ой, гой, деріці, деріці. Там шугає така нечисть, що гріх і дивитись. Ой, гой, деріці, деріці, ой, гой, деріці, деріці. Там шугає така нечисть, що гріх і дивитись. Чорнороги, круторогі, очі як лещата. Жінка в нього чорна жаба, бридка та вусата. Ой, гой, деріці, деріці, ой, гой, деріці, деріці. Отакі жінки в тим царстві гвайні молодиці. Ой, гой, деріці, деріці, ой, гой, деріці, деріці. Отакі жінки в тім царстві гвайні молодиці. Чорт зубатий та багатий, хоч кльову дівку, може їй платити златом та водить до шинку. Ой, гой, деріці, деріці, ой, гой, деріці, деріці. Не ходи, Орись на гору, а чекай на принця. Ой, гой, деріці, деріці, ой, гой, деріці, деріці. Не ходи, Орись на гору, а чекай на принця. Лай, лай, ла, 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 лай, лай, ла, 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 лай, лай, ла, 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 лай, ла, лай, лай, ла, 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 лай, лай, ла, 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 лай, ла, 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 лай, ла, лай, лай, ла, 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 лай, лай, ла, 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 лай, ла, 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 ла.
And welcome back to part 2 of Nash Holos Ukrainian Roots Radio here on CHLY 101.7 FM in Nanaimo. I'm Pavlina and I'll be your host for this half hour. We started out with another song about a girl. It was by Mandre. The song was called Oresia. Up next, part 2 of my interview with Paulina Zalitsky, who defected to Canada in 1971 after working on a Soviet nuclear base in Cuba during the second Cuban Missile Crisis. And as if we didn't have enough problems in the world right now, she thinks that we are on the verge, if not already in the midst of, a third Cuban Missile Crisis. Give her a listen. And now for a look at Ukraine's rich Jewish heritage, then and now, brought to you by the Ukrainian Jewish Encounter based in Toronto, Ontario. Last week we aired part 1 of an interview with Paulina Zalitsky, who published a memoir of her life growing up in the Soviet Union, working in Cuba on a Soviet naval base in the late 1960s, and her famous and daring defection to Canada in 1971. In part 1, Paulina described the dangers she faced and the indignities she endured as a Jewish girl growing up in the Soviet Union, and later as a Jewish woman working on a Soviet naval base in Cuba and accidentally becoming privy to the political intrigues of the little-known Second Cuban Missile Crisis. Today, in part 2 of this two-part interview, Paulina will tell us about her harrowing defection and the circumstances that convinced her that defection was the lesser danger. As well, she'll explain why recent alarming developments in Cuba today, which are being ignored by Western media, lead her to believe that we are now facing a third and much more dangerous Cuban Missile Crisis, and its potentially disastrous ramifications in Ukraine and Eastern Europe. And so you had personal things going on in your life, too. Your marriage was starting to get a little rocky.
Right.
An old family friend that you trusted hit on you and you escaped being raped. And
exactly, by him. Can you imagine? He was my substitute father. Plus, you probably would sympathize with me. I couldn't tell about that to anyone.
It's not something you talk about because then you're the one that suffers.
Exactly. Plus, when I spoke to my father about it, I was endangering his health because he almost had heart attack. And I was afraid to tell to my husband because my husband could react violently.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want him to do that.
Yeah.
What happened is, because my supervisor, who almost raped me, I didn't let him to. I fought.
Thanks to your dad, he taught you the kick.
Exactly. This was very handy kick. So when it happened, he was scared that I will denounce him. So he went to embassy before me and denounced me.
Yeah, preemptive strike, yeah.
Preemptive strike, yes. So I was in a big trouble.
Yeah.
I decided, or I get out in time, or I will end up in prison. So I better go.
So then you started to seriously look at defection. You chose Canada. You knew nothing about it, not a word of English, never heard a word of English.
Yes.
But
Yes.
you decided Canada and a fueling stop in Gander.
Mm-hmm.
And you, first time was unsuccessful. You did it twice. You tried twice.
Twice. Yes, first time they cut me.
Yeah.
I was really lucky that, I was young, because when young women pretend something, it's easier
Oh, yeah.
than everybody else. Plus, I had 2 small children.
Yeah.
So I pretended that my children were very sick.
Yeah.
And airline was scared that I will complain, about food that poisoned my children.
Right, right.
So somehow I managed to survive that one. But the second one, I wouldn't have second chance. That's it. So, once they caught me, it was already recorded somewhere for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And the second time, I would be put in prison. That's for certain.
Yeah.
And punishment for defection is severe. It's 15 years in Gulag.
Yikes.
Of the worst kind.
Yeah.
So I was scared, but I didn't have choice. I had to act. That's what happened.
You did crazy things. I mean,
I had to.
the stories that you came up with the second time, you ended up on the wrong plane, ended up in Prague, stayed there for 2 days, with no money, with no food, with nothing, an accident with one of your little boys. You made it on the plane. And you were so smart. And I'm not, because I don't want to give this away. I want people to read this book because it is an amazing story. But you taught your little boy. He was the one. If it wasn't for your little boy who runs really, really fast, he was the one that broke you free. And you ended up in Canada with the communists banging on the door, the people from the airline that was Czechoslovakian Airlines that you managed to get on. From Prague, and they were there for hours. And then, your story of what happened to you when you defected, and that was harrowing too. What happened here in Canada? I was disappointed in my government, in how you were treated. I was disappointed in those people in whose care you were. They were a whole lot better than the ones that you left behind. It was very shocking to me. It was an eye-opener. And I think it would be an eye-opener to anyone. That book should be in schools. That should be taught in schools, your story. People have no idea, absolute no idea. And I'm just so glad that you wrote that book. It will put John Kerry to shame. Seriously, what a story.
Thank you.
It should actually be a series on TV. But back to your story and how we connected. I just wanted a picture. I wanted to post the, the book review on the website. Just routine, boring stuff, workaday stuff that I do all the time. And then you sent me this information about something that just happened in Cuba. And it's something that's called, what is it, the third Cold War or something, or the third third missile crisis.
Yes, because it's the third missile crisis. You see, the first one was in 62. The second one was really 69, 70, because Kissinger wrote about it. U.S., of course, had intelligence information about Soviet submarines being in Cuba, the submarine base.
Right. Right.
And he wrote an article despite the fact that Nixon forbid him to do it.
Okay, so this is the secret submarine base that you were working on.
Yes.
Your work was on the construction site.
Mine was on construction site. That's right.
The facade for it, and so that
and translation for Navy.
Yes, yeah.
I was translating for Navy too.
That's right. So that was the second Cuban Missile Crisis.
That was second, and now we're coming into third.
Yeah. And this interesting, the second one, not very many people talked about it. As you said, Nixon, who was the U.S. president at the time, forbade Kissinger from writing about it?
Yes, that's correct.
So it's supposed to be kept hush-hush?
Yes, that's right.
Why?
And it looks like it's going to be kept as well now. The reason why?
Yeah.
I told you why I think is the reason. They don't know what to do about it. United States has not anti-missile, cruise missile defense at all. So they don't know what to do about it. And when they're bullied, they just freeze. They do nothing.
So going back again to 1969 and the second Cuban Missile Crisis, were they prepared then, or were they also not prepared? And they just wanted it to go...
No, they were not prepared. They were not prepared. I was interviewed, and of course, I described my work. That was in 1971 when I described my work.
To who? To whom?
And nobody heard about that, right?
So who did you?
You didn't.
No. Who did you describe? Who did you tell your story to? Who interviewed you? The government.
Government, of course. You want to know exactly names? No, government.
No. I don't want to know names. No.
Yeah. You understand.
I do. No.
Yeah. But of course, I am now so free to talk about it because it's really happened and it's recorded.
Yeah. Are you worried at all for your safety?
No, I am in Canada.
Okay, so you don't think that there's any danger here?
No, I don't think there is any danger in Canada. That's right.
Okay, well, you've lived through danger, so you would recognize it if it was there. So when we were first speaking a few days ago, you brought to my attention something that was going on in Cuba. Right about the time I was airing your book review. 2 weeks ago, there were Russian high-level officials had been in Cuba.
Absolutely. The head of all Russian Navy, Admiral Nikolai Yevmenov.
And he was there on the request of Raul Castro and the president of Cuba. Yes,
that's right.
And they were there.
Who visited Moscow a couple of weeks before.
Oh.
Before that.
And then, I see. So the Russian officials were in Cuba for 6 days, and so the announcement was made all over Russian media that they were going to beef up the
submarine base
that you were working on in 69.
Yeah,
so they were going to expand it.
Yeah, that's right. That they're going to rebuild that base, and they are going actually to upgrade these harbor facilities again. And also that the new spy center, this GLONASS and the satellite spy center is functioning. This is a Russian center. It's functioning. Now it's back into operations in Cuba. The spy center and the Navy base, both.
They were both closed.
Were closed in Cuba in 1992.
Okay.
And now they announced that they're reopening it, and the spy center already is reestablished, rebuilt, and operating.
Wow.
Right. And 2 days ago, a Russian spy ship, the biggest spy ship, Viktor Leonov, came to Havana, and it's right now in Havana Harbor from March 3rd. I don't know how long they're going to stay there. But from that ship, not only they listen everything and everyone in United States and Canada, but also they working, of course, in a coordinating work of their new spy center.
Good grief. Are you worried that they'll be hearing our conversation?
No, why? Why should I worry? I'm in Canada.
Okay.
I would be worried if I would be in Havana or if I would be in Moscow.
So we shouldn't be worried?
We shouldn't be worried, no.
Okay.
They're not interested in you and me, of course. They're interested in military establishment.
Oh.
In what our governments do. They're not interested what you and I do.
So they're not worried that people are talking. They don't care.
No, they care about important people. We're not important enough.
That's
Thank
good.
God. That's right. Yeah, my father always told me that. If you want to survive, don't become important.
So you had sent me some English language media, and you'd sent at the time that
Nothing.
there's not much, is there?
Not only not much, there is nothing.
Well, there was something. It was something about Canadian military.
Yes, NORAD.
NORAD. Yeah,
They announced that Russia is the main danger.
Right.
And that's all. They didn't say from the south. Like, yes, Russia is danger everywhere, obviously. And when they're spying from the south, they're danger from in any direction. But we have that danger 90 miles from U.S. coast, right?
Yeah.
90 miles. They don't have to use strategic weapons. They can use short or middle range cruise missiles.
Right.
Cruise missiles, short or middle range, if they have nuclear tip, they're as dangerous as nuclear bombs. You understand?
Wow.
The cruise missiles, they right now, today, nobody can stop. There is no defense against them.
Oh, no.
United States is only developing defense. It's developing, but it's going to be developed, they promise, for 2024.
Oh.
2024, that's a couple of years away from now.
You think the Russians will wait until they're ready? Yeah. So you don't think that the United States is aware of this?
I think they're aware of everything, but they don't want to confront anyone because they don't know how to. You see, they're bullied. And where they're bullied, they don't know what to do.
A bully, did you say?
Yeah, bully. Because Soviet Union and Russia are acting as a bully.
Yes.
They're intimidating in order for what? In order to negotiate. They don't want just war for the sake of war. They don't need to end life on this planet just for the sake of it, right?
What do they want?
They want to negotiate. For example, right now in Ukraine, there are some differences because the new president of Ukraine wants to review Minsk agreement. You see, Poroshenko signed deal in Minsk. The border becomes Ukrainian only after elections. That means that they will elect Russian KGB in government. That would become Ukrainian government.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's what Minsk agreement made.
I didn't realize that.
That's the deal.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, because Russia is controlling borders, right? So while Russia is controlling borders, who is running for elections in those regions?
Well, yeah.
Correct. And if these people are elected into Ukrainian government, whom they are going to represent?
Yeah.
So Zelensky wants to change it. He wants deal to be changed that first the border becomes Ukrainian and after that they will hold elections. That's reasonable.
So which border? The border that Russia breached?
The border that Russia breached already.
So basically push Russia back to the original sovereign borders from 2013.
Yes, that's right. That's right. That's the Minsk deal. That's the conditions of Minsk deal.
To push back all the borders to where they were in 2013.
Yes, and to hold elections. But what is first? First the borders or first elections?
Mm-hmm.
If the borders are under control of Russians, that means elections are not going to result in Ukrainian interest.
Right.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So he wants to review it, and Putin doesn't want him to. And if United States and Europe supports Ukraine, Putin might have to retire before this Minsk deal is finalized.
Why?
And he doesn't want that. He wants to retire. He wants to retire in more secure position. He's retiring at the end of this year.
Oh.
He's supposed to retire.
Oh, yeah, right.
Of course, it's not completely retirement because he still will be controlling everything and managing everything, right?
Yeah.
But from behind, not
yes, yeah.
not in the front line any longer.
Okay, so then let me get this straight. He is in Cuba because of Ukraine?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
They are telling the United States and the Western countries to stop helping Ukraine.
Wow.
Don't interfere anymore, not just Ukraine, but also other regions like Litva, Latvia, Estonia, Georgia, all those other regions as well.
So he does want to recreate the Russian Empire.
Exactly. That's what I was telling in my message to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just continuation of Russian traditional politics.
Wow.
It's empirical ambitions.
Yeah.
They can't stop it. It's always been.
Yeah.
You probably know that originally Russia itself, Moscow, was a very small region.
Oh, yeah.
And it grew because they were conquering territories around them, right?
Yeah.
And it never changed. They always do. They always conquer.
Yeah.
So what they don't want, and what Khrushchev was doing, and what Brezhnev was doing, and what now Putin is doing, they are warning the West not to interfere in their conquest.
So while the United States is preoccupied with coronavirus scares, with unseating an elected president, like him or not, he was elected, and so that whole circus that's been going on, and in the meantime, Russia very quietly is back to its old tricks.
Yes, Russia very quietly just taking what they want.
And the rest of the world is asleep.
Yeah. I was always impressed. You probably heard interviews of granddaughter of Khrushchev. She lives in the United States and she spoke many times on interviews.
Right.
And when they were asking her why Russia is doing that, she always said because they can. She always answered that way. Just because they can. You see, they're bullying.
Yeah.
And the West doesn't know how to confront that.
What do you think about the Ukrainian pushback? Do you think there's any hope there?
To be very honest, I don't think really anybody cares about Ukraine but Ukrainians.
Yeah. Do they have a hope in hell?
Ukrainians do.
Oh.
But nobody else is willing to help,
Yeah.
I feel desperate.
Yeah. You don't have any family left there now?
Yes, of course. I still have family in Odessa.
Oh.
Yeah. They don't want to go. They could go to Israel. They couldn't go anywhere else.
Yeah.
But they prefer to stay in Odessa. They love Odessa. They want to live there.
It's home. Wow. But your new home is here in Canada, and thank you so much for sharing your story and for giving us this heads up on what's happening in the world today.
Thank you, Paulette. You're so kind and so observant.
Oh.
I really appreciate how you treated the subject.
Oh, well, thank you. It's fascinating to me, and certainly you made it easy with your incredible storytelling skills. So, again, I can't emphasize enough for listeners to read Paulina's memoir, The Sea is Only Knee Deep. You can get it on Amazon. It is an incredible story. Thank you for sharing it, and hope to have you on the show again soon.
Thank you.
And thank you. Paulina Zalitsky is the author of The Sea is Only Knee Deep, a 2-volume memoir about her life growing up in the Soviet Union, working as an engineer on a Soviet naval base in Cuba during the Second Cuban Missile Crisis, and her daring defection to Canada in 1971. I hope you enjoyed this interview with the author of this fascinating book. I'm Paulina, producer and host of Nash Holos Ukrainian Roots Radio. Until next time, shalom. Ukrainian Jewish Heritage is brought to you by the Ukrainian Jewish Encounter based in Toronto, Ontario. To find out more about their work, visit their website and follow them on Facebook and Twitter. Transcripts and audio files of this and earlier broadcasts of Ukrainian Jewish Heritage are available at their website, ukrainianjewishencounter.org, as well as at the Nash Holos website, www.nashholos.com. скінчили нашу програму, вже час додому і сказати до побачення. Але перед закінченням я хочу залишити вас такими словами мудрості. До щастя потрібно і розуму. And our proverb of the week translates as good fortune requires wisdom. And with that, we've come to the end of our program. You've been listening to Nash Holos Ukrainian Roots Radio here on CHLY 101.7 FM in Nanaimo. Please join Oksana and me here again next Wednesday from 11 a.m. till 12:30. And until then, do stay in touch with both of us via our Facebook page and Twitter. In between broadcasts, please visit us online where you'll find transcripts, audio archives, and other features, as well as the podcast feed for this and earlier shows. And that's at www.nashholos.com. You can also find Nash Holos on Mixcloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and other podcast places, and of course, on your favorite podcast app. So stay tuned next for Nasha Kasha, a Ukrainian almanac, hosted by Stefan Andrusiak, followed by Wellness Wednesday to learn how to be healthy naturally. I'm Pavlina.
І Оксана.
Thanks so much for listening. До зустрічі.
До зустрічі.